The 4th annual Law Enforcement Basketball Tournament is coming, March 17th through 23rd. Law enforcement basketball teams from throughout the Caribbean will compete as we display the Caribbean spirit of camaraderie. Dominica, Cayman Islands, Turks and Caicos, Trinidad and Tobago, all competing for the prestigious championship trophy. But they have to go through the Royal Bahamas Defense Force and Her Majesty's prisons before they can meet defending champions, the Royal Bahamas Police Force. There will also be a clash of the East versus West Senior Boys High School Championship, along with the annual slam dunk and three-point competition. The winner will receive a scholarship prize. That's right, the 4th annual Law Enforcement Basketball Tournament, March 17th through 23rd. You don't want to miss this one.
Good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned in to MB12, broadcasting from Cable 12 Studios on Robinson Road. Coming up tonight in news, just how bleak is BEC's financial situation? The chairman's explanation may surprise you. An external contractor being considered to clean up the Clifton oil spill. Calls for the PM and the DPM to answer to questions about their involvement in BPC. Plus, the government looks to expand on the incentives for the revitalization of downtown Nassau. We've got those stories and so much more coming up. I'm Paige McCartney, and MB12 starts right now. Welcome once again to MB12. Many people were shocked when BEC Executive Chairman Leslie Miller revealed in the House of Assembly last week that the corporation is on track to lose $50 million this fiscal year. However, we've had to wait until today to find out exactly why. Celeste Nixon explains how the corporation's fiscal woes have brought it near the brink of collapse.
Miller says BEC is broke not because of any one single issue, but numerous problems which have plagued the corporation for years.
Among the many financial challenges Miller outlined was deferring maintenance of the New Providence generation fleet. For years, BEC has rented 40 megawatts of power to assist with capacity and reliability issues, at an average cost of $1 million per month.
The only problem is it comes at a cost of almost $1 million a month to BEC. So that has further depleted BEC resources by paying last year, I think, in excess of $10 million, in excess of $9 million for power that BEC had to purchase. Even though we are producing power, we had to go ahead and rent power from this conglomerate, and that causes more problems.
Miller also said the reconnection and payment arrangement plan established under the Ingram administration has driven up the corporation's accounts receivables.
The previous government decided to provide assistance to those persons who had owed BEC on the electricity bill by stretching out their payments over a 3-year period. And many Bahamians took advantage of that in a negative way that affected BEC. For example, persons in the upper income bracket latched on to that provision that the government offered and decided that if I have a bill for $3,000, I will pay that bill over a 3-year period. Now, it was really intended for the less fortunate.
To date, there are more than 5,000 people on the payment arrangement scheme, 50% of whom Miller estimates are taking advantage of the program. He said the corporation will be seeking to restructure the program in the near future. Miller also noted delinquent accounts could be in excess of $40 million. As he noted in the House of Assembly, Miller said salaries and bonuses of BEC employees have also become an exorbitant strain.
BEC last year paid its staff in excess of $42 million, in addition to $12 million overtime. So that tells you that it cost BEC per year with staff alone about $53 million. And out of less than 1,000 staff, just under 1,000, I think it's about 980 plus, just under 1,000. It's telling the Bahamian people that the average salary at BEC exceeds $50,000, even in many cases for unskilled laborers.
Miller said the corporation will seek to cut costs internally by significantly reducing overtime pay and mandating that employees contribute 25% to pension and medical benefits.
In order to cut overtime payouts, Miller said beginning this week, rostering and flexi time have been introduced. Miller said over a 3-year period, employee contributions will increase to 50% on pension and medical insurance. This initiative, he said, will allow BEC to pass on between $6 to $8 million in savings to their customers. Miller said the corporation is focused on aggressively reducing costs and increasing revenue in order to reduce customers' electricity costs by the end of the summer. It has yet to be seen how BEC's unions will react to Miller's latest statements. Reporting for MB12, I'm Celeste Nixon.
Well, an oil spill off the western coast of New Providence in the area of Clifton that has been perpetuating for the past 15 years has once again flared up the concerns of environmentalists and area residents. Last week, the owners of Stewart's Cove sent MB12 aerial photographs of the oil slick extending far out into the ocean, and they called on the government to do something about it. But according to BEC's Assistant General Manager Siobhan Cambridge, corporation officials are monitoring the spill on a daily basis, and efforts are being made to capture a lot of the product before it seeps into the sea. However, he said it's gotten to the point where the corporation is seeking to contract a company to manage the spill.
We are in discussions with another service provider with regards to putting in place a little bit more permanent measures to encapsulate and to capture the product that is on BEC's compound itself, and to retain that within the confines of BEC's compound so that it can be recovered without any of the product getting out to sea.
Cambridge said there are 3 proposals BEC is considering, and all of them are quite costly, but he said the cost would have to be shared with other companies in the Clifton area because investigations have found that BEC is not solely responsible for the spill, even though the corporation is spearheading the recovery.
It's never really been conclusively decided or discovered that it was all source was from BEC. Basically, they did some analysis on some of the product a number of years ago and actually found that there were products that were in this product going out to sea that BEC doesn't even store or use. But that being the case, notwithstanding that BEC is doing some measures, there are some areas or releases that would have occurred on our property that we're in the process of cleaning and recovering.
The BEC executive said despite the corporation's efforts in the past, the problem keeps coming up because of the type of land on that side of the island. Cambridge explained what measures BEC is taking.
The area out there has a lot of fissures and caves and what have you. And, you know, the tidal movement and just forces within the earth itself, it's finding its way to the sea. What we've done on our property is we have a number of wells that we recover from, and we have a program in place where we have net systems that basically constantly dipping and taking the sheen off from those wells to minimize or to mitigate from releases out to sea.
And Cambridge said he doesn't know what other facilities in the area are doing with regard to the oil seepage. While Prime Minister Perry Christie previously served as a consultant for the Bahamas Petroleum Company, Deputy Prime Minister Philip Rafe Davis was its attorney and Senator Jerome Gomez was its country manager. It's because of that the F&M chairman, Darren Catch, said the party wants all of them to disclose the terms and conditions of their current and previous contracts with BPC, how much they, their firms, or other related parties were paid and or are to be paid, and the duration of their contractual relationships with the company before and after May 7, 2012. No word from the PM or DPM, but in a statement today, Gomez said the F&M chairman no doubt wants to create the perception that there was something unscrupulous or corrupt in the case of the approval for the exploratory drilling, but he says he can assure the Bahamian people there was not. He said his firm was contracted in October 2006 to provide management and administration services for BPC, as the executives of the company felt that to establish an office of its own in the Bahamas was not needed at such an early stage in the process. He explained that his firm was chosen because he's a former Shell executive and knew about the oil industry. He further stated he was introduced to BPC by the Deputy Prime Minister's law firm, Davis & Co., and he believes the firm was chosen because of its own experience with oil companies that had an interest in exploration in the Bahamas. Gomez said his contractual relationship with BPC ended April 30th, 2012. In other news, since the City of Nassau Revitalization Act was introduced back in 2008, downtown Nassau has seen around $36 million in capital investment. And as the expiration date approaches, the government is taking a closer look at the legislation to see if it can be improved and extended. Nakia DeVoe explains.
The government is looking at expanding the City of Nassau Revitalization Act to promote Bahamian entrepreneurship and expand downtown Nassau. The act expires this June.
And we want to ensure that businesses in the downtown area get an opportunity to reinvest in their business, and we have to provide an incentive for it. And we're now reviewing the current legislation, the performance of it, to determine in the first instance extending it, and in the second instance for how long.
During the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce's second Meet the Ministers luncheon this afternoon, Minister of State for Investments Kalis Roll said the government is looking to encourage more domestic investment. Roll says he believes that extending the customs duties and concessions of the act could be one way to do that. The act makes provision for the exemption of real property tax on new buildings, customs duty and excise tax on supplies imported for the purpose of a capital investment in the city of Nassau.
And this provides incentive and duty-free concessions in connection with the restoration, repair, and upgrade of buildings, both commercial and residential, within the defined boundaries of the city of Nassau. And since the inception of the act, the government has granted concessions totaling $18.8 million worth of raw materials, while the total capital investment of these projects exceeds $36 million.
After the global economic downturn, several businesses closed their doors, leaving deserted sections of Bay Street characterized by empty lots, boarded-up windows, and graffiti. The act was introduced as part of a plan to revamp the city center. According to Roll, it is also one of several pieces of legislation dealing with concessions to promote entrepreneurship and domestic investment.
It is an unfortunate but common misconception that the incentive regime that is available to foreign investors is not available to Bahamian investors. I wish to stress that it is just that, a misconception. The Bahamas maintains a generous legislative regime of tax and other concessions for all investors, foreign as well as Bahamian.
Other pieces of legislation include the Hotels Encouragement Act, the Family Islands Development Encouragement Act, and the Small Business Act. The minister encouraged Bahamians to invest more in their own country and to contact the Bahamas Investment Authority for more information. Reporting for NB12, I'm Nakia DeVoe.
Well, stick with us. Coming up after the break, the U.S. Embassy lauds the Bahamas' effort to eradicate human trafficking. And a little later, we'll tell you when the Airport Gateway project is expected to be complete. More on those and other stories when we come right back.